Hi. So this video is about a doubt that one of my students has sent, or one of the subscribers on this channel, probably Anil. And this is a problem here. We have to solve this inequality, right? So let's try and think about this. So we have root over x square minus 4x plus 3 greater than 2 minus x. Now, every time you have an inequality, the first step you should always do is check the domain. Check the domain. Basically, where is the inequality valid? Inequality should be valid. Only in certain values of x you will have the inequality is valid, right? So what is the domain of this side? You should have the thing inside the square root should be greater than equal to 0. So this can be factorized as x minus 1, x minus 3 greater than equal to 0. And by VV curve method, we can see that it should be above 3 or it should be below 1, right? And in the middle, it will be negative, right? So the domain is x belongs to 3 to infinity union minus infinity to 1, right? This is the domain of x. We can only look for the solution in this domain, right? Other regions don't matter. Now, the second thing is to now try to think of this inequality. How do we analyze this, right? Usually it is better if you avoid trying to square this and all. Squaring is not a good way to solve an inequality, because when you square, you're basically changing the function and changing the domain, and you might then end up getting some extra solutions, or you might end up losing some solutions if you do operations without thinking, right? So I would say avoid squaring. So let's try to analyze it without squaring it first. So we have something like this greater than equal to 2 minus x, right? Now there are multiple ways to do it. One way to do it is to think of this like this: x square minus 4x plus 3 plus x minus 2 greater than equal to 0. This is the inequality that we need to solve, right? Now, if you think of this stuff that is inside the root, that can be written as x minus 2 whole square. What is x minus 2 whole square? That will be x square minus 4x plus 4. But here we have plus 3, so we should say x minus 2 whole square minus 1. Plus we have x minus 2, right? Greater than equal to 0, right? Okay, great. Now, if you think about it carefully, you will realize that this stuff, the first term here, is always positive. Always positive, because it is inside the square root, right? Square root of anything should always give a positive answer, right? So if the second term, if x minus 2 is greater than equal to 0, obviously the whole thing will be positive, right? Because this is already always positive, right? So if x is greater than equal to 2, it is obvious that the whole thing will be positive, right? Now, our answer cannot be x greater than equal to 2, because the domain of the inequality was 3 to infinity and minus infinity to 1. So if my answer is x greater than equal to 2, I should take the intersection of this range with the domain, right? So I can say that x greater than equal to 3 should be a valid answer for this, right? Why? Because if x is greater than equal to 3, that is satisfying this condition that x is greater than equal to 2, and it is also part of the domain, right? It is also part of the domain of the function, correct? So what we are saying here is if x is greater than equal to 3, my whole inequality will be satisfied. Now, another way to look at it could be in this way. You have x square minus 4x plus 3 greater than equal to 2 minus x, right? Now think about it. This side is positive, right? This side is positive, always positive, right? If you think of it as a y function, right? Y is equal to root over x square minus 4x plus 3. And you take the derivative of this y function to find its rate increase or decrease. So basically, we are trying to understand whether this y function is increasing or decreasing. You will realize that the derivative is coming like this: 2x minus 4. So basically, x minus 2 by root over x square minus 4x plus 3. And that tells us that the derivative is 0 at x is equal to 2. So x is equal to 2 is like a maxima minima point for this function, right? And you will realize that if you put x is equal to 2, you are getting 4 plus 3, 7, 4 minus 2, 8, so minus 4 plus 3. Correct. So x is equal to 2 actually is not in the domain, right? Not in the domain, because the domain is from x greater than equal to 3 and x less than equal to 1, right? So basically dy by dx is never 0. Dy by dx is always positive in the domain, right? Correct. In the domain x greater than equal to 3. It is not always possible positive in the domain. It is positive always for x greater than equal to 3 portion of the domain, right? And if x is less than equal to 1, this part is negative, so it is decreasing. X is less than equal to 1, dy by dx is less than 0, right? Correct? It is decreasing function. So, the function is a decreasing function. So, if you try to draw the rough graph of this function, I will draw a very rough graph of root over x square minus 4x plus 3, right? So what I will say is at x tends to plus minus infinity, y is tending to infinity, right? So the function is becoming very large at those points, infinity, right? At 3, when x is equal to 3, the value of the function is 9 minus 12 plus 3, 0, right? The function is becoming 0 at 3. So we can say this is 3 comma 0, this point, right? Correct. And after that, the function is an increasing function. I don't need the nature of the function so much. I only need to know whether it is rising or not. So function is defined only for 3 and this portion 1, right? At x is equal to 1 also the function is 0. And again it is rising, it is decreasing actually from this side, right? At minus infinity it was infinity, it is decreasing function throughout, right? Because we saw that the derivative of this function is basically x minus 2 by root over this, right? So if x is less than 2, the derivative is negative, right? So it is decreasing function. 2 was here somewhere, and that is not in the domain. So you can only draw the graph of the function like this till here and like this till here, right? And if you now draw the graph of the function y is equal to 2 minus x, right? Y is equal to 2 minus x is a simple straight line. So it cuts here and it cuts here, right? Correct? This is my graph, this is my straight line, right? Here you can check the value of x is equal to 0 here. X is equal to 0, this is root 3. And when x is 0, this y is what? This y is 2. So root 3 here and this is 2, right? So the straight line is above the curve, right? The straight line y is equal to 2 minus x is above this portion of the curve, right? Which meets here. Correct? So the solution, the inequality that we had was x square minus 4x plus 3 is greater than equal to 2 minus x, right? We need this part to be bigger. The curve should be bigger than the graph, right? So that will only happen in this portion, right? For x greater than equal to 3, right? X greater than equal to 3, you can see the curve is over the graph, right? Otherwise, the graph here, the straight line is over the curve, right? So I hope it is clear. In both ways we can do it. We solved it first by pure algebra. We wrote it as x square minus 4x plus 3 plus x minus 2 greater than equal to 0. And it is obvious that this will be true for x greater than equal to 2, right? And because the domain was x greater than equal to 3, the answer should be x greater than equal to 3, right? We got the answer by pure algebra. And we also can get the answer by drawing the rough graph of the figure, right? We roughly decided that the curve was increasing function going up to infinity from 3 onwards. And before 1, it was a decreasing function coming down from infinity, right? It was infinity at minus infinity, right? And the value at 0 was root 3. And the straight line was like this. The straight line was at 2, right? And 2 here, right? So obviously the line will be below the curve only in this portion of the domain, right? So you can do it in multiple ways. It is important to realize and first figure out the domain of the problem when you are trying to solve an inequality. And after that, you have graphical approaches, you have algebraic approaches. Also, remember, don't square the inequality and all. Don't try to square the inequality. You'll get weird things. You will get wrong answers there. So I would recommend don't square it. Don't do operations without thinking whether it affects the sign of the inequality or not, right? Okay, so that was the solution for this doubt. If anybody else has any problems, any questions, please feel free to use the Google form link below the video description. Use the Google form link and submit your doubts. You can send a clear picture and I'll try and solve it as soon as possible, right? So I'll make a brief video about your doubt and solve it as soon as possible. Please feel free to share your problems and all. If you like the content, like the videos, and subscribe to the channel. I'll be bringing more content for JEE as well as Olympiad soon. That's all for now.